I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe when security escorted me out of the building my grandfather built 70 years ago. Not because anything was funny, but because my sister Claire had just made the biggest mistake of her life, and she had absolutely no idea. Let me take you back 6 months before that moment, because you need to understand how we got here. My name is Daisy, and I'm 32 years old. My sister Claire is 35. We grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a house that overlooked the city, in a family that owned one of the most respected commercial real estate firms in the Pacific Northwest, Bennett Properties. My grandfather started it in 1953 with 2 office buildings downtown. By the time I was born, we managed over 40 properties across 3 states. Claire was always the face. Blonde, charismatic, the kind of person who walked into a room and made everyone turn around. She went to Stanford, joined a sorority, came home with stories and connections. My parents loved showing her off at charity galas and business dinners. I was the one in the back office at 16, learning the books. I went to Portland State, stayed local, learned property management from the ground up. I knew every tenant, every lease term, every maintenance issue in every building we owned. While Claire was networking at cocktail parties, I was renegotiating vendor contracts and reviewing insurance policies at midnight. If this hits home, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. My father was CEO until last year, when his heart condition got worse. The company needed new leadership. Everyone assumed it would be me. I'd been COO for 4 years. I knew the business inside and out. I'd increased our revenue by 38%. I'd personally saved us from 3 lawsuits that could have destroyed us. But my mother had other ideas. It was a Tuesday morning in March. The entire executive team was gathered in the conference room on the 20th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, view of Mount Hood in the distance, my grandfather's portrait on the wall. My father stood at the head of the table, looking tired. My mother sat beside him, perfectly composed in her cream suit, her hands folded on the table like she was posing for a painting. "We've made our decision about succession," my father said. His voice was quiet, a little shaky. "Effective immediately, Claire will be taking over as CEO of Bennett Properties." The room went silent. I felt my coffee cup slip slightly in my hand. I caught it before it tipped. Claire smiled. That pageant smile she'd perfected in college. "I'm honored," she said. "And I'm excited to bring fresh vision to this company. We're going to modernize, expand, really make our mark." I looked at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother reached over and squeezed Claire's hand. "We know you'll make us proud, sweetheart." Nobody looked at me. Not one person in that room acknowledged that I'd been passed over. I sat there in my gray suit that I'd bought on sale, with my folder full of quarterly reports that I'd prepared myself, and I felt something inside me go very, very quiet. After the meeting, I went to my father's office. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets. "Dad," I said. "Can we talk about this?" He turned around. He looked old suddenly. Older than I'd ever seen him. "Daisy, you have to understand. Claire has the presence. The connections. She went to Stanford. She knows the right people. I know the business. Your mother thinks," he stopped. Started again. "We think Claire is better suited for the public-facing aspects of leadership. You're brilliant at operations, honey. You'll still be COO. You'll still be essential." "Essential," I repeated. The word tasted like metal. Please don't make this difficult, he said quietly. You know how your mother gets. And there it was. The truth we'd all danced around my entire life. My mother had decided, 35 years ago when Claire was born, that she would be the star. And I would be the support staff. I left his office and went back to mine. 11th floor, smaller windows, view of the parking garage. I sat down at my desk and I didn't cry. I just stared at my computer screen and thought about every weekend I'd worked, every vacation I'd skipped, every midnight call I'd taken when a pipe burst or a tenant threatened to sue. Comment if you've ever felt this kind of betrayal. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Claire's first week as CEO was a performance. She brought in a photographer to take new headshots. She had the executive floor repainted. She hired a personal assistant who followed her around with an iPad and a latte. She also called her first leadership meeting and announced her vision. We're going to sell off the older properties, she said, clicking through a PowerPoint presentation that someone else had clearly made for her. The maintenance costs are too high. We'll reinvest in newer developments. Luxury condos. High-end retail. That's where the future is. I felt my stomach drop. Claire, those older properties are our stable revenue base. They're fully paid off. They're what keeps us afloat when the market dips. She smiled at me. That same smile. Daisy, I know you're attached to the past. But we need to think bigger. Trust me. Have you run the numbers on this? I've consulted with some very smart people, she said. Alumni from my Stanford network. They know what they're talking about. I looked around the table. Everyone else was nodding. Nobody wanted to contradict the new CEO in her first week. I went back to my office and pulled the files. The properties Claire wanted to sell included the first building my grandfather ever bought. A 6-story office building in downtown Portland, brick and steel, built in 1924. It housed 12 small businesses. A bookstore on the ground floor. A law firm. An accounting office. A non-profit that helped veterans find housing. The rent was below market rate because my grandfather had believed in supporting local businesses. But the building was paid off, and it generated steady income. Selling it would be a huge mistake. I drafted a memo. 10 pages, with spreadsheets and projections. I showed exactly why selling would hurt us in the long run. I sent it to Claire. She never responded. 2 weeks later, I was in a meeting with a vendor when my assistant knocked on the door. Daisy, Claire needs to see you in her office. Right now. I excused myself and took the elevator up to the 20th floor. Claire's new office, my father's old office, had been completely redecorated. White furniture. Abstract art. A crystal vase with white orchids on the desk. Claire was sitting behind the desk. My mother was sitting in one of the chairs facing her. Sit down, Daisy, Claire said. I sat. We've been discussing your role in the company, my mother said. Her voice was cool, controlled. The voice she used when she was about to deliver bad news and wanted you to know she'd already made up her mind. And we feel that you're not adapting well to the new leadership structure. I sent you a detailed analysis. You've been resistant to every new idea, Claire interrupted. You're stuck in the past. You're undermining my authority by questioning my decisions in front of the team. I'm trying to protect this company. You're trying to protect your ego, my mother said quietly. Claire is CEO now. You need to accept that. Claire leaned forward. I'm letting you go, Daisy. Effective immediately. We'll give you 6 months severance. That's generous, considering. The room tilted slightly. You're firing me? We're transitioning you out, Claire said, like she was reading from a script. We think it's best for everyone. I looked at my mother. She was examining her nails. I built this company, I said. My voice sounded far away. I've given you everything. And we appreciate that, Claire said. But it's time for you to move on. Security will escort you out. We've already boxed up your office. Tap like so this story reaches someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been thrown away by their own family. That's when I started laughing. It came out of nowhere, this laugh that bubbled up from somewhere deep in my chest. I laughed so hard my eyes watered. I laughed until my mother stood up, uncomfortable, unsure what to do. Are you having a breakdown? Claire asked. No, I managed. No, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Because here's what they didn't know. 3 months earlier, when my father first got sick and we knew leadership was going to change, I'd done something. Something careful. Something quiet. I'd made copies. Of everything. Every contract. Every financial record. Every email. Every document that showed how the company actually ran. I'd backed it all up on an external hard drive and stored it in a safety deposit box. And in those files, I'd found something interesting. Something that explained why Claire had been so eager to sell off our older properties to invest in luxury developments. She'd already made a deal. A private deal. With a development company run by her boyfriend from Stanford. A company that would buy our properties at below market value, then flip them for huge profits. Claire would get a consulting fee, off the books, for making it happen. It was fraud. Clean, simple, family-destroying fraud. I stood up, still smiling. Good luck, Claire. I hope Stanford taught you about fiduciary duty. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? You'll figure it out, I said. Security walked me out. A 22-year-old kid in a uniform, looking embarrassed, carrying the box with my nameplate and my coffee mug and the photo of me and my grandfather at my college graduation. I walked out through the lobby, past the receptionist who'd worked there for 15 years and looked like she might cry, past the marble fountain my grandfather installed in 1978, and out into the Portland rain. And I was still smiling. I spent the next 2 weeks in my apartment, working 18-hour days. I went through every file I'd copied. I highlighted every suspicious transaction. I traced the money. I documented the timeline. I found emails between Claire and her boyfriend discussing the opportunity. I found text messages about the consulting fee. I found proof that she deliberately undervalued our properties to make the sale more attractive to his company. I also found something else. Something worse. To finalize the sale quickly, Claire had forged my father's signature on several documents while he was in the hospital. She'd told him they were routine paperwork. She'd told my mother they were strategic decisions. She'd lied to everyone. I put it all together in a binder. Color-coded tabs. Highlighted sections. A timeline. A summary. Everything a lawyer would need. Then I made copies. Lots of copies. I sent one to the company's board of directors. I sent one to our corporate attorney. I sent one to the Oregon Attorney General's office, Business Fraud Division. I sent one to the IRS, because the consulting fee she was planning to take was definitely not going to be reported as income. And then I waited. Subscribe for more stories like this one. You're going to want to see how this ends. It took 3 days. The first call came from our corporate attorney. He contacted my mother and requested an emergency board meeting. He mentioned irregularities in recent transactions. The second call came from the Oregon AG's office. They wanted to interview Claire about certain property sales. The third call came from the IRS. My mother called me at 11 o'clock at night. "What did you do?" "I protected the company," I said. "Like I always have." "You sent those files. You're trying to destroy your sister." "No," I said quietly. "Claire destroyed herself. I just documented it." She hung up on me. The board meeting happened 2 days later. I wasn't invited, but I heard about it from 3 different people within an hour. Claire had tried to explain. She'd said it was a misunderstanding. She'd said she was trying to modernize. She'd said the consulting fee was standard industry practice. But the board had seen the numbers. They'd seen the emails. They'd seen the forged signatures. They'd also seen the alternative scenario I'd included in my report: what would have happened if Claire's plan had gone through. The company would have lost approximately $40 million in stable assets and gained luxury properties just as the market was starting to contract. We would have been exposed, vulnerable, potentially bankrupt within 3 years. The board voted unanimously to remove Claire as CEO. They also voted to launch a full investigation into her conduct. And they called me. "We'd like you to come back," the board chairman said. His name was Martin Chen, and he'd known my grandfather. He was 70 years old and didn't waste words. "As CEO. If you're willing." I sat in my apartment, looking out at the rain, phone pressed to my ear. "Why would I come back?" I asked. "You all sat there and watched them fire me." Nobody said a word. "You're right," Martin said. "We were cowards. We were wrong. But that company is your grandfather's legacy. And it needs you. It needed me 6 weeks ago." "Yes," he said. "It did. And I'm asking you to be bigger than we were. Come back. Save it. And then decide if you want to stay." I thought about my grandfather. About the way he used to take me to construction sites when I was 8 years old, let me wear a hard hat that was too big for my head, explain how buildings were made to last. "I'll come back," I said. "On 3 conditions." "Name them." 1. Claire is removed from the board entirely. No advisory role. No consulting position. Nothing. Done. 2. My mother steps down from any decision-making capacity. She can stay on the board, but she doesn't get a vote. Martin was quiet for a moment. "That's going to be difficult." "That's my condition." Done. 3. I want full authority to hire and fire. I want final say on all major decisions. And I want it in writing. You'll have it. I walked back into Bennett Properties on a Wednesday morning in May. The receptionist saw me and burst into tears. "Oh, thank God," she said. People came out of their offices. Someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. I took the elevator up to the 20th floor. To my grandfather's office. To the office that should have been mine 6 months ago. Claire's white furniture was gone. The abstract art was gone. The crystal vase was gone. My father's old desk was back. My grandfather's portrait was back on the wall. I sat down behind the desk and looked out at Mount Hood in the distance, snow-covered and steady, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The anger. The hurt. The betrayal. The victory. Then I got to work. Comment below if you've ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours. Tell me your story. Claire didn't go to prison. The lawyers worked out a deal. She repaid the consulting fee she'd already received as a down payment. She resigned from any involvement with Bennett Properties. She signed an agreement never to use the family name in business again. She also had to apologize. In writing. To the board. To my father. To me. I never responded to her apology. My mother tried to talk to me twice. The first time, she said I was being vindictive. The second time, she cried and said I was tearing the family apart. I told her the family tore itself apart the day she decided one daughter was worth investing in and the other was worth using. She hasn't called since. My father came to my office a month after I took over. He looked smaller somehow. Older. He sat in the chair across from my desk and stared at his hands. I was weak, he said. Your mother wanted Claire to have it, and I didn't fight for you. I should have. I'm sorry. Yes, I said. You should have. Can you forgive me? I thought about that. About forgiveness. About what it means to let someone back in after they've thrown you out. Maybe, I said. Someday. But not today. He nodded. He stood up to leave. At the door, he turned back. Your grandfather would be proud of you, he said quietly. And then he was gone. 6 months after I became CEO, Bennett Properties had its best quarter in 10 years. I didn't sell the older buildings. I renovated them. I raised rents to fair market value, but I kept our existing tenants and helped them grow. The bookstore on the ground floor of my grandfather's first building? I renegotiated their lease and helped them expand into the empty space next door. They're thriving now. I also started a new program. We set aside 10% of our properties for affordable housing initiatives. Small businesses. Nonprofits. Community spaces. It's not just about profit. It's about legacy. The board loves it. The press loves it. And every time I walk past my grandfather's portrait in the hallway, I swear he's smiling. Claire moved to California. I heard she's working for a tech startup, something in marketing. We don't talk. I doubt we ever will. My mother sent me a birthday card last month. I didn't open it. Some bridges, once burned, don't get rebuilt. And that's okay. If this story moved you, tap that like button. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Here's what I learned from all of this. Your family doesn't get to define your worth. Your last name doesn't determine your value. And loyalty to people who don't respect you isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. I spent my whole life trying to earn my mother's approval. Trying to prove I was just as valuable as Claire. Just as worthy of investment, of pride, of love. But you can't earn something that someone's not willing to give. And once I stopped trying, once I stepped back and let them make their choice, I saw clearly for the first time how little they'd ever really seen me. That clarity hurt. It still hurts sometimes, on the quiet nights when I'm alone in my apartment and I think about what a real family could have been. But that clarity also freed me. I don't work for their approval anymore. I work for my grandfather's legacy. For the people who depend on this company. For the city my grandfather loved. And for myself. Because I am enough. I always was. I just had to stop waiting for them to notice. I'm still CEO of Bennett Properties. I'm 33 now. I bought my own house last month, a small craftsman in the Pearl District, with a view of the city and a garden in the back. I'm dating someone. A teacher. He has no connection to real estate or business or my family's world. He thinks it's cool that I run a company, but he's more interested in talking about books and hiking trails and whether we should get a dog. It's the most normal thing in my life, and I love it. Claire sent me a LinkedIn request last week. I didn't accept it. My father and I have dinner once a month now. We're rebuilding something. It's slow. It's careful. But it's real. My mother and I don't speak. And I've made peace with that. Some people will never see you. Some people will never choose you. And you can't build a life waiting for them to change. You just have to build the life anyway. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? What's your story? Have you ever had to choose yourself when no one else would? Because that's what this whole thing taught me. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is laugh when they throw you out. And then come back and prove exactly who you were all along. My grandfather used to say that buildings are just like people. They need strong foundations. They need regular maintenance. And they need someone who cares enough to see the cracks before they become fractures. I think about that a lot now. Claire saw the company as a stepping stone. A name to leverage. A resource to extract value from. My mother saw it as a trophy. Something to display. Something to brag about at charity dinners. But I see it the way my grandfather did. As something you build carefully, maintain honestly, and pass on better than you found it. That's the difference between us. And that's why I'm still here, and they're not. I'm not going to lie and say I've forgiven them completely. I'm not going to say that everything worked out perfectly and there's no pain left. There are still nights when I lie awake and remember the look on my mother's face when Claire fired me. The way she examined her nails like I was boring her. Like I was nothing. But those nights are getting fewer. And more importantly, I've learned something that's worth more than forgiveness. I've learned that I don't need them to see my worth. I see it. And that's enough. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole story. Hit subscribe if you want more real talk about family, betrayal, and what happens when you choose yourself. And remember, your worth isn't determined by who recognizes it. It's determined by what you build when no one's watching. I'm Daisy. And this is my story.